Hey everybody, warning signs are everywhere. But if you don't know what to look for, or if you don't know what the warning sign means, you could get yourself into a lot of trouble. Okay, so if you're going to buy a puppy and you're new to the world of breeders, there are some warning signs that you ought to be aware of because if you get the wrong breeder, you can end up with a whole lot of problems. And so today what I want to do is run you through several warning signs that tell you that your breeder, it doesn't matter how cute the dog is, your breeder's a no-go. These are signs that if you see one or two of them, maybe not a big deal, but if you see three or more of these signs, then it's probably time to hit the big eject button and go find a more reputable breeder. So let's jump into the list. All right, so the first warning sign that I want to talk about is maybe the one that gets overlooked the very most, and that is if your breeder's not asking you questions about you. Where you live, what your circumstances are, what your work schedule is, who's at home, what you're going to use the dog for. Those are just a sampling of the questions that a breeder ought to be asking every single person that inquires about a puppy. One of the most important responsibilities of a breeder is to make sure that they've got a quality fit between the puppy and the new forever home that they're going to be placed in. The breeder's been with these puppies for 6, 7, 8 weeks and has started to identify some personalities. He's going to identify who the dominant pup in the litter is. He's going to identify who the more relaxed and chilled puppy is. And as he gets to understand, as the breeder, he or she gets to understand the needs of the family or the situation where the puppy's going to go, he can help make sure that you get the right puppy for your situation. All right, warning sign number 2, and this is kind of a continuation of a larger warning sign, but for me personally, I always like to see that the dew claws have been removed from the puppy. That is something that I believe every breeder should do. It's a little added expense, but the dew claws are totally worthless. The only potential a dew claw has for a dog in its life is to cause pain. And I believe that every breeder ought to be aware of the uselessness of these little dew claws and to remove them right after the puppy's born within 2 days. It's a really minor little incision, and then those dew claws are pulled out. If the breeder doesn't take care of that at birth, then you've got to wait until the puppy is old enough to undergo anesthesia. It's a whole surgery that has to take place. That leads us to the third warning, and that is you want to make sure that your breeder is offering you health checks. He needs to be able to show you from mom and from dad that, and depending on the breed, there are some certain health guarantees or health checks that need to be done on the parents. For example, Labradors, Golden Retrievers, that's the world I'm a little more familiar with. And I would say you have got to have hips, elbows, eyes, and possibly some DNA testing done. But those three for sure, hips, elbows, and eyes, are a minimum of the health checks that ought to be done before any litter is had. Okay, so warning sign number 4 that you want to be looking out for is a breeder who doesn't require you to sign some kind of a contract. Now, that contract is going to have obligations going both ways. Most really reputable breeders will say if something changes in your life and you can no longer have this puppy within so long, the first year or so, then the breeder gets the first opportunity to take the puppy back. This is a breeder's way to make sure that their puppies don't end up in a shelter, or don't get euthanized, or don't end up in a situation that isn't best for the pup. It also, and for your safety, I would make sure that those written guarantees also protect you against some sicknesses. We had a Golden Retriever pup when I was a kid. That we had the puppy about a week, and then it got really sick, and the vet couldn't do anything, and the puppy died. And we didn't have that kind of a guarantee, and so we were just out a puppy, and we were out the cost of the puppy. You don't want to go to the Walmart of breeders that has, do you want a poodle? Do you want a lab? Do you want a Chihuahua, I've got them all. That's not what you want. You want a breeder that has dedicated themselves to this breed. You want a breeder that's very familiar with the breed standards, so that they know if a dame is throwing if a dame's throwing bad pups, they're familiar enough with the breed standard to say, hey, these, for whatever reason, something about the way this female or this male, their DNA is not working. It's not producing a reliable Labrador puppy or a reliable German Shorthair puppy. And you want to make sure you get a breeder that is concerned about the breed more than they are their pocketbook. If you come across a breeder who is charging significantly less than all of the other breeders, there's probably a reason, and that's a warning sign that you need to avoid that breeder. He's cutting costs somewhere, and that's probably going to be in the health of your pup or in the pup's parents. You need to be able to go back and see where the pups have been kept since that time. You want to make sure that they're clean conditions, make sure that mom's being taken care of. The other thing to pay attention when you go to the kennel is how many other dogs does he have? And does he seem to be, taking care of those dogs as well as he is the puppies that he's trying to sell? I also want to make sure that the breeder is very aware of the shortcomings in a breed. For example, if I were dealing with a pit bull breeder who refused to acknowledge that pit bulls have an extremely strong bite and that they have been bred in the past for aggressive behavior with other animals. They are the king of the dog fighting arenas for decades. And so I want a breeder who's going to be really honest with me with regards to those shortcomings. It's going to be how I make sure that I kind of protect both the puppy and myself. Any breeder that's worth his salt, any breeder that you want to buy a puppy from is going to be thrilled when you ask them questions. What kind of dog food should I get? Any vet recommendations? When do I need to get their shots? What kind of food should I get? What's the best exercise? What kind of food should I get? What are the best toys? What's the best crate? What kind of food should I get? Notice, even repetitive questions, a breeder should never be irritated with you asking those, and any breeder that's going to be frustrated or tired of your questions is probably not a breeder that is concerned first and foremost for the puppy or about making sure that you are going to be able to provide the happiest and longest home for your future friend. So those are my warning signs. If you run into breeders with these kinds of issues, I would steer clear. Even if they have the cutest puppies in the world, I would avoid these breeders, these kinds of breeders, because in the long term, you want to make sure that you're dealing with someone that can be trusted to help you later on down the road as you come into questions that you can't find the answers for online, or you don't know really who to trust, because a lot of times in the dog world, you're going to deal with a lot of people who have lots of different opinions about questions you're going to have. And it's really nice to have a breeder that you can trust with your puppy and questions about your puppy. And it's nice to have them in your back pocket. So, hey, so if this has been any help for you, then I would love it if you'd go ahead and just hit the little like button right now. Also, if you've never subscribed to our channel, now's as good of time as any. Hit the little subscribe button and then make sure you hit the notification bell so that you get notified every time we send out one of these videos. And if you are going to get a new puppy, you really ought to consider checking out our puppy training playlist. We cover everything in that playlist, from the most basic obedience training to even some more advanced commands. So thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you down the road.